This is Chet Holmgren, and I'm down to dunk.
This is AJ Mitchell, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Alex Crusoe, and I'm down to dunk.
It's like baby bottle pop. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is Adam Flagler, and I'm down to dunk.
Hey, it's Isaiah Hartenstein, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Cason Wallace, and I'm down to dunk.
I can't spell Lucas. Hey, how do you spell Lucas? How do you spell Lucas?
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
This is Nikola Topic, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Dylan Jones, and I'm down to dunk. This is Isaiah Joe, and I'm down to dunk.
And there's probably like 50 to 75 Beanie Babies.
Give me like your top 3 Pokemon.
Brother, I can't even name.
This is Jay Will, and I'm down to dunk.
Sometimes the way his brain works is it leaves a lot to be desired.
This is Kenrich Williams, and I'm down to dunk.
Charmander.
Charmander.
Or are you more of a Charmeleon guy?
Charmeleon.
This is Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and I'm down to dunk.
Schlecht. You know what it
Schlecht?
means? Yeah.
That means like bad.
It means bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
Well, it was a good interview, so it wasn't bad.
J-Dub, year 3, and I'm down to dunk for the 3rd time. Thank you.
Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With me, as always on Wednesdays, is my good friend Alex Speers. Alex, what's up?
What's up?
Man, Al, everything is up right now, dude. This is a crazy trade deadline week. Like, I honestly can't believe it. I mean, I think there's a lot more to happen here, but we're in the midst of one of the crazier deadline weeks ever, and it's been spectacular.
Yeah, I mean, 2 weeks ago it was just like the same old Jimmy Butler stuff, and Cam Johnson was like going to be the biggest name that got moves, and now it's like, who cares about Cam Johnson?
I haven't heard it, but I haven't heard the name.
I haven't heard his name in weeks.
Days. Oh man, it's amazing. The
Yeah,
Thunder
this has been pretty
trade.
wild. Shout out to Nico Harrison for making it all.
Golly, shout out to Nico. Shout out to the ownership group. Have you heard any of the conspiracy theories out there about like the ownership group wanting to like threaten a move to Las Vegas?
Yeah, sorry, you cut out for just a second.
Okay. Have you heard any of the conspiracy theories about the Dallas Mavericks wanting to do this deal so that they can be a threat to move to Vegas, so they will eventually legalize gambling, sports betting in Texas as like a leverage play, like a big leverage play? Like they don't care about the basketball. This ownership group, who, by the way, used to own a bunch of casinos in Las Vegas, now they own a bunch of casinos overseas.
Yeah,
They are all in on getting legalized gambling in the state of Texas. And they're doing like there's a conspiracy theory that they're doing this in order to tank the Mavs and then try to threaten a move to Vegas. So then they will eventually legalize it there so they can have a monopoly on it. Which I think is honestly the thing that makes the most sense to me in this whole thing.
and I guess some of the details there are that they failed in the most recent legislative session.
Yes.
And so that might have been the impetus for them to want to do something crazy. I still don't. So I bought that initially, but after seeing Nico's press conference and just the continual flood of quotes, I'm now at the part where I think that he genuinely believes everything he's saying, and he's just an idiot, because he was too happy, and like the report that came out that like they were surprised by the reaction. Yeah, that made me feel like,
give me a break. That is nuts to me. That is like absolutely,
because if that's true,
that is bonkers.
Then I lean more that Nico is just like that he didn't see that much of a difference between Luka and AD, which it appears that he doesn't, and that he really wanted to do this, and he saw it as just kind of like a lateral move that maybe fit better with their team. I mean, as dumb as all that sounds, I do think that might be the most obvious explanation.
That would be, in turn, it would also mean that he had like Mr. Magoo'd himself into the finals last year, like falling into the Kyrie deal, just like, oh, Kyrie's my guy. Like that worked. And then it's like, well, we need a power forward, and they tried to get Kuzma, and Kuzma didn't want to do it. And then they got PJ Washington, and it's like everybody hated that deal. He's like, well, we need to get bigger. They traded a first for Daniel Gafford and ended up giving the Thunder a pick swap that is going to be outrageously valuable to the Thunder, I believe, in 2028.
Yeah.
Which is the thing that I'm most excited about. But like, do we just think that he has Mr. Magoo himself into like a good team, and then now it's just like, oh, okay, like this is really who he is? Because he was actually like, in the moment of all these deals, everybody's like, this guy might be the worst, and then it just
I know.
turned out okay. But now it's just, you just have to wonder if this was all like coming down the pike anyways.
I mean, the whole Mr. Magoo thing, it's like, that's the benefit, that's the value of Luka. You can kind of Mr. Magoo, as long as you just upgrade the talent, Luka will make it all work.
Yeah.
And that's why not just did they lose Luka, but Derek Lively's not going to be as valuable as he was looking like. Like that, he's a totally different prospect without Luka.
100%.
That's a different player.
That is a great point. That is a great point. Is that, that's where a ton of his value was, and that he was like the perfect, like that's the perfect duo. And then you just have to find the pieces around them, because like Kyrie's not going to be around for that much longer, and like all these role players are just going to be in and out, including Gafford. That's a great point. In that if you're Derek Lively, you've got to be pretty miffed now too, because his value is also decreased, because there's the spacing that existed before will not exist with him and AD on the floor.
Yeah.
Because neither of them, as excited as we are about Derek Lively hitting that one corner three in the NBA Finals, like he's not going to be a volume 3-point shooter. AD never has been. Like the spacing is not ideal, and then they do like the Caleb Martin deal, which I just honestly can't wrap my head around it for the Mavericks.
Well, I mean, it's funny because like from an outside perspective, it's like, why do people keep trading Quentin Grimes? Like, he's 24, he's shooting close to 40% from three. Like, he had one weird year last year, which was basically because of injuries. But like, people were excited about him when he was on the Knicks. Like, why does he keep changing place? And then you go back even further and you realize like this happened in college too. So it's like, is there something like personality wise with Quentin Grimes where teams just kind of like a Christian Wood thing where he's like productive, but like people just don't want him on their team? Like, why does this keep happening? That's the only explanation I could give, because if you just look at it, it's like, why wouldn't you want the 24-year-old over this almost 30-year-old, Martin Twin, who's been a very streaky shooter? I said Martin Twin because I literally could not remember his name in the moment, whether Caleb or Cody. Okay. Caleb, yes.
Yeah. It is, but it's weird though, because it's just like a lateral move in a move that you give up an asset. Like they're just giving up like another asset. To me, it just doesn't make sense in that.
Well, it's a money saving move, because Grimes is up for a new deal, and so whether you like Caleb's contract or not, at least it's locked in. And it's going to be that.
Sure.
And maybe you think that Quentin Grimes is going to ask for more than, I think he's making like $8 million a year. And so you're freeing up some theoretical money, but they're screwed regardless, because at the end of next season, like Gafford's a unrestricted free agent, PJ Washington's an unrestricted free agent. If they want to keep any semblance of this team together, they're going to have to pay up.
Yeah.
And based on the Luka trade, now it's like, man, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, it feels like they have like a 2-year window, like this season and next season, before they're either going to lose these guys to free agency because they don't pay up enough, or they're going to explode their cap sheet, which is, we're being told, is one of the motivations behind getting rid of Luka. And you look at the standings, like after that loss last night, like it's getting bad.
It's getting bad.
They're in the 11th seed right now. And we know that the Spurs just made a move behind them.
They missed the whole thing.
It would be hilarious.
And it's like this win now move. And like, is anybody going to be shocked if AD misses time? Is anybody going to be shocked?
No, he's missing time right now. He couldn't even make his first game.
Back right now, like right this minute, he has a bulging disc in his back. And we think like that guy is going to make it through the rest of the season. Just playing every single game. We think that Anthony Davis isn't going to have something happen to him that happens almost every single year. And it didn't happen last year. And what happened? They got bounced in the first round very easily with AD being the best player. So what are we doing here? It is one of the most baffling trades in the history of the league. And it's just been the most spectacular week for content. As like a guy who is producing multiple shows, it has been one of the best like content weeks ever. I'm just bathing in content. It's just beautiful.
Well, there's just so many angles to it, and it truly is one of the rare like star trades where there's not really a good counter argument. You know, like usually, even with like you think about the Julius Randle trade with the Timberwolves, a lot of people hated that, but there was at least still people. You know, I mean, I was still like kind of high on the Wolves going in the season, even though I thought they wouldn't be as good in the playoffs. Like you could still find people on the other side to at least argue it. And this, you can't find anyone. And so we're all just like grasping at straws. And
except for Perk and
oh yeah,
those are the only two that are standing up for this trade for them, which is just funny.
And you look at the Western Conference now, like not only do they have the Spurs on their heels, they're 3 games back, but they just added De'Aaron Fox. Like you would assume they're going to be better. You don't make a move like that to then tank the rest of the season. Like they're probably going to be better the rest of the season, and they didn't give up anything, like any like key pieces. And then Portland, what the hell? Portland's only a game back of the Spurs, has won 5 straight, 9 of their last 10. The only game they lost was to OKC.
What is happening? Like
I don't know. So
as a Portland resident, what is happening? That's my question to you.
Oh, what is happening? Well, I mean, Scoot has continued to be a real basketball player, which is amazing. Their defense is completely legit right now. I think they're the number 1 defense in the league over this stretch. And you know, you could poke holes in the schedule, but for a team like this, like you can't do that really. Like they beat Phoenix twice. Okay, yeah, we don't think much of Phoenix. They just beat Indiana last night. Like that was the first one where it's like, all right, well that's a pretty legit win. They beat Orlando twice. Orlando's kind of been a mess lately, but they still beat them. And so I don't know, man. Oh, and they beat the Bucks with Giannis and Dame.
God, the Bucks are a disaster right now.
So yeah, so I don't. The Blazers fans are just like a little confused right now because no one saw this coming, and it just continues to happen. And so you kind of just have to accept it at this point. But if they keep playing like this, like they're going to be closer to the Mavs sooner than later. And the Mavs' upcoming schedule, I mean, they play Boston next on TNT. Who knows if AD is going to be healthy for that? Then they play Houston. Then they play Sacramento. Then Golden State. Then Miami. So, like, if AD doesn't come back and they go, you know, like 1-4 in that a 5-game stretch,
like
it could get really bad. And the teams ahead of them, like the Kings, even though I didn't like that deal, like they're still going to be super competitive this year.
They won the other night.
Yeah, and Levine may end up being a better fit than De'Aaron Fox. And then it just comes down to the Suns and Warriors, which, you know, if we're going to talk slop, I mean, that's probably the place to start.
Talking slop, baby. We got to talk slop.
That's like the biggest thing right now, which I hesitate to even say it because it doesn't make sense. Because the idea that's being floated now is that the Suns, for some reason, would get Jimmy Butler, but not in exchange for Bradley Beal, in exchange for Kevin Durant. And if they're doing that, why?
Yeah, what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing here?
I guess they would be getting more assets back, whereas in the Bradley Beal version of the trade, you would be giving up like those 3 bad first or something. But yeah, I still don't understand that deal, and yet a lot of people think it's very real. I mean, Windhorse was on ESPN, I guess it was this morning, saying that like the only guy he feels comfortable will be in Phoenix is Bradley Beal. He says, I don't think there's a deal for Bradley Beal. But when it comes to like KD, yeah, he could be a Warrior in a couple days.
Yeah.
Which that part of it I get, because it's like, sure, like the Warriors have to do something. They're familiar with Kevin Durant. Sure, that part of it makes sense. The part that makes zero sense to me, though, is the Suns. Like, what could they possibly be getting back that would make that worth it? Because they would get they would get worse. They would get obviously worse.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can tell you, like, the whole NBA world was on pins and needles last night. Like, everybody was up waiting for something like that, thinking that it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And it didn't end up happening, which I hope that everybody just saves their stuff for Thursday, because we're doing this live stream all day long, and I just would not enjoy if everything happened before the live stream on Thursday. But yeah, this is all like really shaping up to be a crazy day on Thursday, in which I would be surprised if the Thunder were a big part of it. Although the Thunder did make a trade, Al. I guess we can.
Yes. Okay. So I've told myself reasons why they would have made that trade.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the very boring version. Oh, by the way, if you haven't heard the trade,
Yeah.
they traded a 2029 Phoenix second.
Mm-hmm.
You know, think about everything we just said about Phoenix, to Charlotte for a 2030 Denver second.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the very boring explanation is that they had 6 second rounders in 2029. And so it makes sense to kick at least one of those down the road.
They're balancing their checkbook almost, is what it feels like.
Yes, but you know, if you polled people and say which second would you rather have, I feel like it would be 100% for the Phoenix pick.
Right.
So then, even if you are balancing the scales, why not just get rid of one? I'm not saying necessarily for this Denver pick, but why not just get rid of one of those other ones? Like, why do this deal when that Phoenix pick looks so juicy?
Yeah.
There must be more going on, Andrew, right?
There must be more going on. I don't know. Honestly, second round picks are so inconsequential that I just can't.
They are, but then why even do it?
I don't. I honestly don't know. I think it's a balancing act with all these picks, is what I think it is. And the more you can push picks out, you know, to be used later on, the better. I mean, my guess is that, like, second round picks for the most part with this team, because they do have such a deep roster, and then they're going to continue to theoretically increase the depth with the picks that they have in the next few years, is that, like, second rounders are mostly going to be used as trade fodder, which you could even say, like, well, then why trade the Phoenix one?
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah, I can't sit here and say that I completely understand it.
So that makes me feel like there has to be some ulterior motive here. It can't just be because, like you said, it's not like they have to go into the 2029 draft, a draft that is 4 or 5 years away, and keep all those picks. Like, they could have traded that pick the day before the 2029 draft. Like, why do it now? And the only thing I keep coming back to is just how many of Denver's picks they own now. And it's like, does he know something? Because now they own the 27 first, the 29 first, and now they've added a 32nd. And I saw some people trying to make the case that this has something to do with, like, Denver unprotecting the 29 first, because there's a thing with the 29 first where, like, it could eventually be a second. And that's the part that I'm really confused by, because if you go on a real GM right now and you look at that 29 first, it's protected 1 through 5 in 2029, 1 through 5 in 2030. If it has not conveyed, then Denver will instead convey its 2030 second round pick to Oklahoma City, which is the pick they just got. So I can't figure out how that makes sense. Yeah. And them unprotecting the 29 pick because they want to trade the 31 pick at this trade deadline for some big move, that would be contingent on a second round pick. So what does that have to do with anything?
Yeah, Bobby Marks. Did you see Bobby Marks' tweet?
What did he say?
He said, so before the trade, OKC had a 2030 second from Denver, but only if the first owed by the Nuggets did not convey in 29 or 30. Charlotte had a 2030 second from Denver, but only if the 29 or 31st from Denver to OKC did convey. So post-trade, OKC has a 2030 second from Denver, and Charlotte has a 2029 Phoenix second, which is what we've already kind of discussed.
Yeah. I still don't get it, though.
So it's okay. I think we should move on, to be honest.
I just want someone to explain it to me, because it's an obviously better pick.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, but it's like it's to me, it's mostly inconsequential. So I
know,
can't. I just refuse to let myself get wrapped up in it.
but
To be
just please start texting people at the Thunder.
I just can't. I can't bring myself to care about it. I've got too many other things to care about right now.
Yeah, like what?
Like, I mean, just being ready, for the emergency pods at all times, which you did a great job the other night. If you haven't listened to Alex and Jason Gallagher on the Athletic NBA Daily from Saturday night, you should go listen to it because it was just really fun. I was so glad that Jason could hop on. And also that Alex could hop on, just because it was like, how are we gonna like process this? And like, I think the best way to process things in moments like that is like find somebody who's emotionally invested in what's happening. And like Jason was the perfect person. So shout out Jason Gallagher for being able and willing to hop on the pod that night. That was super duper fun. Okay, we talked a little bit about Fox the other day. Now that it's happened, just thoughts on that trade. I thought that the Spurs did a ridiculous job. I mean, I feel like they gave up like minimal assets to get De'Aaron Fox on their team, and it just feels a little bit unfair.
Sure. Yeah, I think it was a very good deal value wise for the Spurs. It all just comes down to whether you think De'Aaron Fox is that guy, because he's going to be eligible for a massive extension. He's going to be someone who's making 50 plus million a year very, very soon. Maybe none of it matters because it is Wemby, but I look at the rest of their team and I still just don't love the rest of their roster. And I truly don't know if it is going to matter because Wemby is so good. But I think if you were going to take a negative look at this trade, it's simply like you talked about maybe last week, just saying like, is De'Aaron Fox the guy you go make this move for? Because you are going to have to pay him a lot, and they're going to have a few years where it's not going to matter because Wemby's still on a rookie contract. But yeah, I don't know. I just if you're trying to maximize Wemby, do you clearly they made the calculus that it's better to make a move now than wait and see if someone else becomes available. Now, in their defense, they didn't trade any of their young guys. They still have those Atlanta picks, so they could still make another move.
Yeah.
They just don't have quite as much ammo, but they still could make another move. So yeah, I think it's a perfectly good deal. I just want to see like what is De'Aaron Fox's ceiling?
Mm-hmm.
Is he just like a top 40 player in the league? Or when you see him next to Wemby, is he all of a sudden like a top 20 player? Because he's had some crazy highs. I mean, he had that 2-game stretch where he scored like 110 points or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the Kings, I've heard some defenses of that trade for the Kings.
I have too.
And I feel like so many defenses of the Kings come back to this idea that, well, they're just happy to, field a competitive team. It's like, it's always so patronizing. It's always like, well, they just don't want to like totally suck. So like the bar for how you should view trades gets lowered. And I just don't think I don't think that's true. I don't think Vivek like is happy just being like the 9th or 10th seed every season. I don't believe that's true.
In no man's land. Yeah.
Like I get this idea that they had a 16-year drought. Their fans were so thrilled just to have a normal team to root for. But I don't think that means that for now until forever, they're just happy having a normal mid Western Conference team. And so I look at this deal and I just see like, yeah, they're just on the treadmill. Like they're the same Kings team. That's maybe a play-in team some seasons. I could see that not being a play-in team some seasons. Like they haven't changed their future direction in any way, in my opinion.
No. There's no chance for upward mobility for them too, because like they don't have like a young guy, excuse me, that you think could like make a leap or something. Like Keegan Murray's not going to suddenly turn into an all-star, I don't think.
Yeah, and so I wasn't thrilled with it, and it's because I think you either have to get a player somehow that is better than De'Aaron Fox by trading future picks away, or trading one of your young players, or you have to go the other way and they just did the thing where they're just going to kind of stay in the middle. And I just hate those kind of moves. I mean, he may end up fitting better. They may make the playoffs. They may like have a competitive first round series, and fine. Like I guess if that's what makes you happy, that's what makes you happy. But I just don't believe that. Like I've seen some of their fans' reactions to it, where it's just like, man, this was the guy we drafted. This was our guy, and we're just kind of like swapping him out for a guy who, is having like a good season, but also clearly has zero trade value.
And also was like
traded for a guy who you can't trade again for any positive value.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he was salary dumped to you, by the way.
Yeah.
That's
why am I getting excited about this? You traded De'Aaron Fox and you got one good pick. You didn't even get your own swap back that you traded to the Spurs in the Harrison Barnes deal. Like why is anyone positive about this deal for the Kings?
It's a great question. It definitely just rings like, what are we doing here? You know, it's just a team stuck in the middle that doesn't understand that they're stuck in the middle. And it's especially in the Western Conference, you just can't feel the team like that because you will go nowhere. Because you have, like, if you're in the East, you can at least like sell yourself on like, hey, listen, like the Pacers made the conference finals last year, and like you can catch lightning in a bottle being just like this like okay team in the Eastern Conference. In the Western Conference, that's just not the case. Like you have to have elite talent in order to get to even the second round at this point. I mean, it is going to be really tough to get to round 2. And the Kings are likely to get bounced in the play-in again if they even make it. And so it definitely just rings. It's just like a team that is hopelessly in the middle and doesn't really have a clue how to get out of it. So
yeah, in the East, I mean, their roster is more talented than Detroit, and Detroit's a 6th seed right now.
Sure.
I mean, I take Cade first probably, although I don't know. Sabonis is right there with them too. But the rest of their rosters, even if you think those guys are somewhat comparable, like it's clearly the Kings have the better roster.
Yeah.
So yeah, if they were in the East, sure, you could make a deal like this and tell yourself, hey, this is good enough to get us to, you know, a locked in playoff spot. But yeah, in the West, it's just like, so like when they lose in the play-in, like what's the response going to be then? Like, yep, we're just going to run it back with Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Sabonis again. By the way, I looked it up. Those 3 guys have 36 combined seasons of NBA experience. How many second round playoff appearances do they have between them? What would you guess? So there's 36 out of 36. How many times did one of them?
4.
That's exactly correct, Andrew.
Is that right?
Exactly 4, yeah. And it's all DeRozan, and it's all DeRozan with Toronto.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because LaVine has just been on losing teams basically his entire career. Great player, and like having, I mean, they're just Bulls West now, you know, like that's all they are, and they're stuck in the play-in. Yeah.
By the way, big win for our Bulls last night. Against the Heat.
I know. It is hilarious. It is hilarious.
Josh Giddey had one of his better games this season. He's on my
maybe this will light a fire under Giddey.
Maybe. I mean, he should get more usage. He was 24, 5, and 7 last night, 8 of 14 shooting, made 2 threes.
Yeah.
Modest Bazelis was 10 of 10.
I was gonna say somebody said he's like the youngest player to ever not miss a shot when taking 10 or more field goals.
Wow.
So shout out.
Yeah, and then from the Bulls' perspective, I mean, you know, any LaVine trade they made was going to be a bad trade because they've waited too long.
It's one of those trades where both teams, it felt like the Spurs were pulling the wool over their eyes a little bit, because like the trade to get their pick back is like one of the more meaningless trades ever, because they were likely to keep that pick anyways. So like, what are we like? Why are we doing that? And then like the Charlotte pick that's going to turn into seconds also just feels funny just the way it was announced, because like when you look at it on the surface, like 3 first-round picks and the Chicago got their pick back, and it's like, well, wait a minute, like that's not accurate. Like that's not what this is. Like that's not what either one of those things is. It just
and also if
pretty funny to me.
I mean, it seemed like last summer that, okay, Chicago finally has some idea of what they want to do. They trade DeRozan. Okay, this is going to be the first of several dominoes. And then it wasn't. It was the only domino. But if they just committed to it, that pick would have never been in question. You know, they could have guaranteed themselves that pick. And yet, because they want to keep doing whatever they keep wanting to do, which is hang around the 9 or 10 seed forever and ever, now all of a sudden it was like valuable for them to go and acquire that pick just in case they continue to be like semi-competent the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny that the Sixers still haven't passed them. I mean, that was a nice win for the Sixers last night over the Mavericks. It was a disgusting end of game scenario.
Yeah,
there were so many bad plays, but they still haven't passed the Bulls. They're still in 11th, which cracks me up.
It would be so funny if this is just the way that it ends, just one game away from each other at the end of the season.
The Bulls just need the Sixers on their heels. You know, that's all they need to keep winning games.
It's so funny. One more thing I want to mention before we go to break is that the Spurs have 2 potential lottery picks in this next draft, and they didn't give up either one of them in the deal. Like, that to me is crazy. Like that.
You mean their own and the Hawks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that to me is just bananas that they couldn't get one of those picks.
Yeah, like if you're the Kings, why would you not, and you're apparently not going to tank, you're not going to bottom out, how would you not prioritize one of those 25 picks just so that you can get another player on a cheap contract into your system? I mean, that 2031 Wolves pick is great, like no doubt about it. But for their purposes, it's probably only going to be used in the setting of a trade. You know, like that's 6 years away.
Only. Yeah.
And so instead, they have to wait till 27 to get this Spurs pick.
Yeah.
That, you know, if things work out the way we think for Wemby, it's going to be in the 20s. Like, yeah, why not prioritize getting one of those 2025 picks? How do you not get it back? How do you not get one of those?
Yeah.
It's not like, and they're not even like amazing picks. Like, I mean, the Hawks are the 9th seed right now, so maybe it ends up being like pick 13 or something. But still, like that's something real.
Yeah, exactly. It's something that you could say, okay, cool. Like they can, like this is a good draft. They can potentially get somebody in this draft, and I mean, it's just, it's wild to me. It is just wild to me that they couldn't get, you know, one of those picks in the deal. Because like you should hold the cards here. You have the player that the other team wants. Like you have him, you know. You should be able to get that. But it just goes to show like how much it matters to have a good general manager and a good owner. Because like I think that bad deals are made because of ownership and leadership of the general manager. Like that's why and how bad deals are made. And so, I think you can blame the whole Luka thing is all about bad ownership, bad management. You know, I think the same thing goes for the Kings trade that I just don't think was good. Same goes for Chicago, which we know an ownership group that is not that motivated to win, and a management group that has really struggled, you know, to put together a good team. Like it's all about that to me in the NBA. Like everything starts and ends with that.
And I think it all comes back to the result of that is a lack of vision. Like the way the Kings function, it's just like, well, who's available? Oh, we could get DeMar DeRozan. Oh, well, cool. I mean, he's better than some of the guys on our team, so let's just do it. And now they're recreating the Bulls team from a couple years ago. Like that, if you had asked them last summer, like that obviously wouldn't have been their vision. They wouldn't have wanted to do that. But because they don't have a vision, they do this. And the same thing with the Mavs. Like Nico Harrison, clearly this trade was driven in part by the fact that he has this relationship with Anthony Davis and this relationship with Rob Pelinka.
Yeah.
You know, and that kind of clouded his vision for what like the team he had built was.
Yeah.
Like, all of those pieces you put together don't make as much sense when Luka's not there. And when you replace whoever with Anthony Davis, I mean, I don't even know how they're going to figure out their front court. Because, like, do you really want, if they play PJ Washington at the 3, like that can't be an answer.
No.
Because then you'll have like zero shooting in your front court with AD and Lively or Gafford.
Yeah. No, there's no way.
It's so funny to think about a month ago, they have that loss to the Mavericks, and there were sections of the fan base that were freaking out about that loss. And to think about what has happened to the team that a month ago I would have agreed with you that like they are the biggest threat going forward outside of like Wemby in a couple years. Like Dallas has shown us they can do it in terms of beating us.
Yeah.
They have the pieces to beat us. They have all these annoying guys. And now, like, even if they do get things together like this year or even next year, like long term, this team just like over the next 7 years, like this team isn't the biggest threat. Like if we redid our Western Conference like threat rankings, I got to imagine they drop a couple spots.
Yeah, no question. Because I mean, when you're talking about threats, I mean, you just think about every one of those games against the Mavericks in the playoffs. They were down to the wire. And what matters down the stretch of a game like that is just like execution from your stars. And when you basically take a guy off the floor who is a decision maker, who will take double and triple teams and still make a good decision out of them, and you add in a guy who doesn't create for himself, like watch the Lakers whenever it's crunch time. Like the ball is not like at Anthony Davis's hands beyond the 3-point line. Like he's a screener. He's trying to set up in the middle of the floor. They're trying to find like a lob for him. Like it's not, that's not how he operates. And so now, like you take one of those guys off the floor. Now it's just Kyrie Irving. If they don't trade for another player, like Spencer Dinwiddie is not the Spencer Dinwiddie that we saw against the Thunder the other day. That was an anomaly. Like they had to keep him off the floor last night. Like he's not a guy that is going to, close games for them for the most part because he's a defensive liability. And so like they don't have another guy to go to. And I think that to me is, it definitely takes them down a notch because like I would definitely put Denver above them. Like no question now. I think I would have put Denver above them anyways. Like now I think that I for sure put Denver above Dallas. Not that Dallas is bad. I think that if they do end up getting to the playoffs, like that is a team that you don't want to play, but I think that they are certainly easier for sure.
Yeah. Did you see our very own Josh Robbins tweeted while we were podcasting? I'm on the Ball Discord.
Yeah.
He said that the Wizards and Bucks have continued to discuss a potential trade centered around sending Kyle Kuzma and Patrick Baldwin Jr. to the Bucks for Chris Middleton and rookie AJ Johnson.
Yeah, it's
including
done.
some exchange of a draft pick or picks.
Yeah. Shams just reported it. It's done.
It's done?
Yeah. Yeah. The Milwaukee Bucks are trading Chris Middleton, AJ Johnson, and a pick swap to the Washington Wizards for Kyle Kuzma, Patrick Baldwin Jr., and a second round.
Say again what the Bucks are trading.
The Bucks are trading Chris Middleton, AJ Johnson, and a pick swap. It doesn't say what year. That's bad, dude.
That's so bad.
Why would they do this?
I mean, it goes back to the mistake of last year at the draft, taking AJ Johnson in the first place. Like you're this team that's capped out. You have a chance to use a late first on a guy that might be able to help you. And instead, you take the guy who's probably least prepared to be in the NBA and who at this point has played fewer minutes than any other first-round pick that wasn't injured. And so now you're just turning him and Chris Middleton. And it's so funny reading Bucks fans. They like love Chris Middleton.
Yeah, of course they do.
I know, but like he's been really bad. And like from the outside, it's easy for me to say, like, yeah, it's time to move on from Chris Middleton. Like you can't count on this guy in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And so like they're going to be so pissed. I mean, I don't know if you've seen Kyle Kuzma's heat map.
I can't say I've seen his heat map, but I know that he has had just a putrid season. Like there's no doubt about that. Yeah.
Hey, maybe he was right about Dallas though. It took a year.
Yeah.
But maybe the Kuz was right about not wanting to go to Dallas because he didn't think they were contenders.
Unbelievable. Yeah, Kuzma right now. Maybe he's correct. But does this get you hyped, Alex? Seeing Kuz in a Bucks jersey. You're looking at the screen.
Oh, Oh wow, they have a 0 and a 00. Can you do that? Or do we
Yeah.
have to change his number?
Yeah, you can do it.
You can do it?
You can do double
Oh,
zero.
that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm cleaning the glass. His points per shot attempt this season, 97.6, which is in the 4th percentile.
That seems bad.
4th percentile. He's shooting 29% from 3. He's shooting 25% on non-corner threes.
Listen, if you can give up a legacy player for that, I think you got to do it.
Man.
The pick swap is the thing that would scare me the most.
I know. Is that they really gave up? I'm assuming it's unprotected.
It's got to be that way in the future, but like the bottom could drop out of this Bucks thing quick, and they don't have many of their picks. And if you're already giving up a pick swap, like I know the Wizards aren't like some picture of like success, like I know, but still, like if they somehow get flag and they hit in the draft, like things can change quickly. As people that cover the Thunder, like we know things can change quickly. So
yeah, that's not bad business by the Wizards, because I was expecting them. I thought they had just completely missed the window on Kuz.
Yeah,
and they take back Middleton, which he has a big contract, but it's expiring next season, $34 million.
Wow.
So they'll get off of that, and yeah, not bad for the baby Wiz.
Yeah, it's really not. Because Adrian Castro in the chat says Middleton in OKC if he's bought out.
I can't imagine them buying out. I mean, he's still potentially a trade chip next year, because he'll be an expiring $35 million. Very low stakes in Washington, and if they can get him back, if they can just get him healthy for like a couple months, who knows?
Honestly, like just having a guy like that on your team to like mentor Koulibaly,
Yeah.
So, like, it's even if he is bought out, like, is he going to move the needle for the Thunder? Like, the Thunder don't need help on the wing. The Thunder need a 4. If they need anything, like they don't need a wing like that. That is like he would just be taking touches away from J-Dub essentially, or just like another guy who's over the hill that's going to take minutes from Kenrich in the playoffs. That we're like, wait, why is he taking minutes from Kenrich in the playoffs? If the Thunder don't make a move, I wouldn't want them to do something like that.
Yeah, listen, it'd be nice to have another person who could create their own shot, because that is something that OKC has struggled with at times.
Middleton.
But
not this year's Chris Middleton.
Yeah, I mean he's been fine when he's been on the court, but it's just like he's not going to be on the court.
He wouldn't play for this Thunder team. They have too much depth. You want to take Wiggins off the court too? Like that's another consequence of adding a guy like Middleton. It's like you really like that. Like he plays the same position as Wiggins essentially.
Man, the Bucks could have taken Filipowski. That would be nice. Could have taken Ryan Dunn.
Yeah.
Could have taken AJ Mitchell. They would have never done that. 23, but
I mean,
man,
why not? There are teams that did have AJ in that range.
Really?
And like thinking
back,
then
yeah, they should have taken him.
Thinking back on it, like AJ should have had a first round grade from a lot of teams.
Yeah,
especially when you're looking at like the way that the first round ended. It's like there's just guys that just and this is just the draft though. It's like there's just guys that don't matter that go between 20 and 30, and it's mostly all of this stuff is inconsequential. There's not anybody here that's changing the Bucks season.
Man,
that's wild. Well, congratulations to the Wizards who made a good trade, and sad day for Bucks fans who are just watching the ship just completely sink until they have to trade Giannis. So, okay, let's take a quick break. We come back. We are going to do Thunder trade value rankings right after this. And we're back after that quick break. Al, should we do this in from 14 to 1 or from 1 to 14? How do you want to handle this?
I think 1 to 14 because just the top 3 isn't going to be a surprise at all, you know. So there's no big
no.
reveal.
Yeah.
I put him in tiers.
Okay.
My first tier is only if Nico Harrison is the Thunder's GM, and that is Shea Gilgeous-Alexander,
Isn't that the truth?
number 1.
Isn't that the truth?
I think we both agree on that.
Yeah.
Now the second tier I put only if they ask out,
Yeah.
which is Chet and J-Dub in some order.
Yeah.
Even with his injuries, I'd still lean towards putting Chet second in terms of trade value, but it's possible that J-Dub could have more value on the trade market.
I would put Dub 2 right now just because of
You
the
would?
injury stuff. Yeah, and like Dub has had a great season. I mean, he made
Yes.
the All-Star. He made the All-Star team. He defends all 5 positions. I mean, the guy has jumped center this year for them, and he will guard like some of the better perimeter guys at times too. And then like he's a developing scorer, like a guy that scores 20 points per game, that is rebounding better, that's getting to the free throw line more. I mean, like he is wings like that are really, really hard to find, and wings that have that kind of skill that are as unselfish as he is are really, really hard to find. You know, it's not like you can find Chet either, but just the health.
Yeah.
The health thing is like the difference for me.
Yeah, for me, the difference was just like I view Chet as like a genuine ceiling raiser.
Yeah.
And I just think his archetype is so rare, and
It is.
just getting a ceiling. I mean, it's the reason why people still like can talk themselves into someone like Zion, who has had years and years of injuries. It's because, man, if it ever gets right, and I don't think Chet's injury history is anywhere close to Zion's.
Oh, because it's the work ethic that differentiates the whole thing. Is that like Chet is a monster when it comes to like work ethic and wanting to be on the court. I mean, the guy played every single game he could possible last year just to like prove something to people.
And I guess because the 2 injuries have been such flukes, that's why I'm like not as concerned. And knowing he was so healthy before that, you know, like through lower levels, like he was always really healthy. So but you can argue either way. My next tier, Andrew, tell me what you think about this. It's only if we're getting a star back.
Okay.
Tier.
Yeah.
And I only put 2 players in it.
Okay.
And I put Kaysen and Hartenstein.
Man, I wish that we could disagree at some point, because I have my top 4 or top 5 currently is Shea, J-Dub, Chet, Kaysen Wallace, Isaiah Hartenstein.
Yeah, and I put Kaysen ahead of Hartenstein just because of the contract, you know, on a rookie scale deal.
100%.
And Hartenstein, you know, he is making a lot of money, so it's a little bit harder to match. So maybe you have to take back like a bad contract with a bunch of picks in a deal like that or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think those 2 guys make sense. And then this next tier, which is 6 guys for me.
Okay.
I think this is where it gets challenging, and I named it So I'll name them off, and then we can discuss. So I said only if the offer is too good to pass up.
Yeah.
That's how I titled it. And the names, now this is my current order.
Okay.
I'm willing to, because I will tell you one player I moved into every position. I could not figure out where to put him. So right now I have Dort, Caruso, Topic, Wiggins, Isaiah Joe, AJ Mitchell.
Interesting.
Now, I initially put Dort number 1 just because I'm thinking about what other teams value.
Yeah.
And because and the reason I put him ahead of Caruso, one, because of the injuries, but also Caruso is now locked into a little bit of a larger deal.
Yeah.
And so maybe that would scare away some teams. Whereas Lou Dort, you have him locked up for 2 more seasons after this one on a really reasonable deal. You know that he does something elite. Whereas like some of these guys lower down, like maybe you still have questions about, okay, what is their elite NBA skill though?
Yeah.
So I put him there. I'm not confident in it. I'm not confident in any of these. And then the same kind of reasoning with Alex Caruso second, just because I think the league has valued Alex Caruso really highly for a long time now.
Yeah.
And we know that.
It's
and
true.
So I still think he would have value in a trade going out. But and listen, it's not like the injuries are a new thing. He teams were super into him when he was having these types of seasons in Chicago and still
Yeah.
wanted to give like 2 firsts for him.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
I don't think the calculus has really changed that much with Caruso. He's still wildly impactful when he's on the court. So that is why I put him there. I'm willing to listen to arguments against it.
So my order is I have Dort next at 6. Just because I think he would play on literally every single team and be in like their top 6, like no question. I have Isaiah Joe next after him, just because shooting is so valuable. And I think that he's an underrated defender. And I think that he would also be in almost everybody's top 6 rotation. Like I just think that he has worked himself into being a great player. And like we've seen him kind of come out of this slump and just he's on a heater right now.
Yeah.
Whenever he's playing like this, I think his value is just through the roof, especially on the contract that he's on. I think the contract is just it is one of the better ones in the league. I have Topic next just because he's like this mystery box. He's cheap. He could theoretically do a lot of things for you. He's super young. Even just like you could sell yourself on the fact that he's been in this with the Thunder this entire season. And like that, to me, that just adds value to him. The fact that he can kind of learn under Mark and under this team. And I'm sure that he's been in film sessions with guys like Shea and J-Dub and AJ. And I just think that like there's just a lot of value there. And the fact that he's a lottery pick, I just put him there. And then I have Caruso next, just because of age and because of the injury history stuff. And then I have Wiggins after that.
Yeah, the reason I put Wiggins the reason I put him higher than Joe, his contract is really absurd.
It's better than Joe's because it's
better.
Longer, it's cheaper. Yeah.
Yeah, like if you trade it for Wiggins now, you get him for 4 more seasons.
Yeah.
Where he's making like $8 million a year.
Yeah.
Which is just so valuable. And I originally had him lower, but I just kept bumping him up when I was looking at his contract. Isaiah Joe, I don't know. Like I agree with you that shooting is very important, but I feel like we always see these shooters just not end up going for a lot if teams perceive them as like kind of purely shooters. You know, like
I just think he's more than some of these other guys, though, like the Kevin Herters of the world. Like
but I'm thinking like Gary Trent Jr. You know, just like doesn't get a lot of interest around the league.
He's on defense though, and like that's where I think Joe has differentiated himself.
But do you think other people view him that way?
If you're watching, then yes, I think NBA scouts should definitely.
Yeah.
Gary Trent has been a guy that has struggled to defend for years and years and years.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just my point. That's just
I know. I still like maybe you would get like a late first for Isaiah Joe. I just don't think a team is giving up like a choice first round pick.
Yeah,
for Isaiah Joe.
I think that is fair. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I also don't think you're getting a good first round pick for Wiggins either.
No, I would agree with that too. Yeah, I don't think.
I think they're all. I think you could for Dort, honestly. Like I think,
or like 2 late first or something.
Yeah, I think you could really get some value for Dort, just because his imprint on the league, I think, is pretty big, and you can count on him at least bringing it defensively every single night. And then the fact that he can shoot and that he can score too. I mean, he is like one of like the rare like 3-and-D plus players in the league that's actually really good.
Yeah. And the reason I put Caruso where I did was because if he does have a healthy 3-month stretch at the beginning of the next season, and for whatever reason they wanted to move him, like he would have a ton of value.
Yeah, I think that I may bump Caruso up next to Dort, just because I think that those two guys.
Topic is difficult. I kind of just stuck him in the middle because
yeah,
you kind of go back to like, well, a lot of teams had him ranked in the top 5 before the injury came out, and so you have nothing else to base your opinion on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think once we see him this summer, we'll be able to have a better feel for that.
Yeah, definitely.
And then my last two tiers, worth more to us than you, which was Kenrich and Jay Will.
100%. Yeah, they're guys that, like, when I asked people to throw me fake trades, and there's really just, I mean, it's tough to make a fake trade for this team. So I feel for the people that tried, but like just including either one of those guys for just other guys that fill the end of the bench. It's like, what are we doing here? Like, why? Like,
Yeah,
why are we doing this for a guy that may or may not play for this team?
yeah, maybe you could get 2 seconds for Kenrich, but like, who cares right now? He's on a great deal. He can play.
He can play. He's got attitude. He's a guy that the coaching staff loves. He's a guy that, you know, can be valuable. Like he's like one of like the true like 3-4s on this team that you feel like can play in the playoffs. Because you look up and down the rest of the roster, it's basically J-Dub, and like Caruso can be that, but like he doesn't have the size. Wiggins can do that, but he doesn't have the size either. Kenrich is like one of the only guys that you can trust to play that position at this point, which is like partly why I said earlier that I feel like they could still use another guy that plays that position, but like he could prove to be valuable in the playoffs. He's had a great year.
Sorry, I was just apparently Giannis is a big Kuzma fan. Okay, last tier is sure why not, which is Dylan Jones and Oos.
Yeah, like to me, either one of those guys could be moved. I know Oos had a great night the other night.
He did
a non-competitive game. Shout out.
No, competitive for Oos.
Yeah, I mean he played great, and you can.
I thought he looked aggressive. Andrew.
He did. He played great. He played
physical,
great.
going to the basket. I still have him ranked 15th, but
you have him below Dylan.
Yeah, just because Dylan's on a rookie scale deal, so
just contract only. I would put Oos above Dylan just because I just believe in like I think that like Oos could still like figure it out and like play on a team. Like
Andrew, those are fighting words.
Dylan, I've got some questions about. Yeah, I also just wonder, like the Thunder are clearly keeping some flexibility this week with like letting Brandon Carlson's 10-day expire and just holding that spot open. Like I think it could result in like on Friday we hear that they are going to sign AJ Mitchell to a standard deal and they're going to bring Brandon Carlson in on a 2-way. Like I think that that's possible. You know, they haven't done it yet, and so I think it's just my assumption is that they're trying to keep some flexibility there this week in case something happens. So yeah, I mean, I think it's probably hard to disagree with some of this. I think that you can disagree once you get to the middle.
Yeah, the middle's really interesting.
I could also just argue that Hartenstein should be 4th easily, you know, because he is just a more valuable player around the NBA period. And has like clearly been the 4th best player on this team, you know?
Yeah, I was thinking it more like if you did make a star trade, that other teams probably would rather have like the young prospect than the center making $30 million a year, you know?
Sure.
As good as he is.
Yeah. But starting level center in the NBA that a lot of teams would like to have. And, you know, it did feel like a little bit of an overpay in the summer, but, you know, watching him play the way that he has, I mean, he's properly paid, you know.
I think he's probably paid for the Thunder. I don't know if you're another team, if that makes as much sense. Like if you don't have all the other talent and you're relying on Hartenstein as like a 30 million cog in your cap sheet, I don't know if it's quite as valuable.
I mean, I think the Knicks would gladly have him back.
Yeah, but they couldn't do it. They'd have to strip down their team just to be able to fit someone like that. Like he wouldn't have that. I mean, that's part of why I factored, you know, him in being behind Jason.
It is tricky. It is tricky. I just think that he is.
Oh, he's great.
He's
great. To be clear, love him.
Value.
Andrew Oos only 34 minutes behind Jay Will. The battle continues.
The battle continues.
I think if Chet comes back and is healthy, and their lead in the West grows, I
Mhm.
think I still have a shot at this for Oos to play more minutes than Jay.
I mean, yeah, as long as Oos is not traded
Yeah, that would hurt.
days, that
Now, does that count if he plays minutes for other team?
absolutely not. Like if he's
Come
traded
on.
to the Hornets or something,
No.
he starts for them
Oh, that's not fair.
because Brandon Miller's out. Like heck no. No way, dude.
In case Thunder fans don't know, I'm sure you do, but big game this Saturday, and I'm kind of pissed off about it because the Grizzlies are going to be on a 2-game rest advantage,
Yeah.
and the Thunder are going to be playing second night of a back-to-back.
Yeah. It is against
And
Toronto, who is going to be missing RJ Barrett.
I know, but it's in Toronto, which means they have to fly from Toronto down to Memphis.
I know. It is a
That
bummer.
sucks.
It is a bummer.
As long as they beat them, great. But I'm just telling you, I'm getting my excuses ready, locked and loaded. I wish they just sit everyone against the Raptors. I don't care. Lose the game. I don't care. I want to see how they look against. I want to see healthy Memphis versus healthy OKC.
Well,
Healthy, rested.
Semi-healthy Thunder.
I guess that's true. Yeah.
What's
Unless
let me check the injury report now.
Unless Chet's back.
Unless Chet debuts in Memphis. The Thunder are at home tonight against the Phoenix Suns.
Let's see if KD sits out.
Durant is doubtful with a left ankle sprain and the trade deadline looming over him. Chet is out. AJ's out. Nikola is out. Cason Wallace is out with the right shoulder strain still. And then J-Dub is questionable with his right wrist sprain. So there you go. There you go. Like you just want these guys to get healthy. And just like, hey, it's been kind of cool to see Aaron Wiggins get more touches. Like that's worked. So
one more Kuz stat for you, Andrew. True shooting. Okay. These are the guys that Kuz is just ahead of. Alex Sarr, Keon Johnson, Kevin Porter Jr., Keyshawn George, Vasily Micic, who has a true shooting of 46% this year. Ouch.
That is painful.
Ouch. I sure did spend a lot of time getting excited about him.
we did. We had an emergency pod about him.
I was kind of pissed when they traded him.
Did numbers. Yeah. Turns out, you know what? A lot of us were wrong about Vava. Felipe Hernandez in the chat says, bring KD home. Does that mean trade him to Golden State? Because this is
the Nets.
Or the Nets.
You want them back on the Nets.
Yeah. I mean, like just to like throw this out there. Like 51 million is really difficult to get to.
Yeah, we were talking about it for the Mavs because Mavs were rumored. And like even if you did Gafford, Clay, and PJ Washington, you only get to 44 million.
I was gonna say you have to there's like two other guys. I was in the Spotrac trade machine yesterday putting it together. And I got Clay, PJ, Gafford, Dwight Powell, and Jaden Hardy. Like that works to get
so
just
much.
Kevin Durant. And like, yeah, like you have KD, Kyrie, Anthony Davis, and Caleb Martin and Max Christie. You know. Yeah,
you could do probably Hartenstein and Dort.
That's what I was gonna say. Like if the Thunder. Which I mean, it's a fool's errand to even discuss it because it's just not
fool's errand.
A fool's errand. Like it's not happening. But like you would just like to think about it. It would have to be Hartenstein, Dort, and Oos to make it to get there cap wise. You know,
honestly,
like, what are we doing?
That'd be a really nice trade for the Suns because now you have a starting center.
You get a starting center. You get a guard next to Devin Booker that can really help them and can shoot threes. I mean, it would be that'd be a boon. That'd be a boon for them. And I think that like it would help them. No question. That would help that Suns team. Yeah. Thunder aren't doing anything like that. You can go ahead and take that to the bank. But and they shouldn't. Again, like we don't have to go over this again, but this is like team with the best net rating in like the last like 40 years. So you don't have to
I think you could argue that no one should. I mean,
pray for Kevin.
just look at Kevin's career.
Yeah.
Why are people still fighting to get this guy on their team? He destroys teams. Destroys them.
He has ripped a few teams to shreds. That is true.
Honestly, the Warriors are the only one that makes sense.
It would be a life raft of sorts for them to get him, because it's a way to just kind of like end like this Curry Draymond era in a way where you at least give yourself like a chance, you know?
Yeah.
And like when everything's over, you don't have to pretend any like that Moody or Kuminga are actually the guys that you want to build around, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Because that's what it would be. Like no one is building their team around those guys. You know, as much as Golden State would like to talk these guys up, like nobody thinks or is even pretending that these guys are like what some of the Warriors fans think they are. So yeah, it'd be a total life raft to them if it ends up happening. So we'll see.
All right, Andrew.
Hey.
Good luck, everyone, on slop day tomorrow.
Hey, enjoy it. Hey, if you need somewhere to hang out, come hang out at the Athletic NBA Daily YouTube page, the Trade Deadline Bonanza.
Wow, look at all those names.
Featuring a ton of people. Jay King, Yossi Goslin, Spike Eskin, James Edwards, Mike Prada, Blake Murphy, James Herbert, Bryce Simon, Andrew Claudio, Ben Golliver, Christian Clark, tons of people. All the No Dunks guys, Trey, Skeets, Tass, Marcus Thompson is going to come on. Dane Moore. It's a great list. And I'm adding to it as well. I'm talking to several other people that are going to join the stream as well. So just join us. We'll be live literally all day long. I'll be sitting in this chair starting at 6:30 a.m. tomorrow, talking slop.
I'm only coming on if you'll devote 10 minutes to the second round pick swap that Presty just pulled off.
Okay, we'll talk 10 minutes on that if you want. if you want to come on. Yeah, it's gonna be an absolute best. I think Bryce Simon talking Pistons is gonna be the first guest on. He's signed up for like one of the only people that signed up for like the early shift. So
they just got KJ Martin.
Yep, we could talk a lot about KJ Martin, which
That's something.
To have somebody else on your bench, I guess. Okay. Thanks so much for listening to our show. Be sure that you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit the like button if you're watching right now. We've got tons of people in the chat right now. Very much appreciate you guys. Hope everybody's doing well. And we'll talk to you guys again. Honestly, if something big happens, we'll talk to you again tomorrow because we'll do an emergency pod. But if not, we'll talk to you guys again on Friday.